Hello and welcome to Under the Dome. I'm Therese Apel, the Public Information Director for the City of Pearl. And as always, we're here with our two favorite legislators. We've got Senator Dean Kirby and Representative Jean Newman here with us. Gentlemen, it's always such a great treat to have you guys here.
Well, thank you. We're honored to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
And I don't know if people know, but we shoot this on Monday morning. So we've been talking about how we're just kind of catching up with things right now.
We're still trying to get it in gear from last week.
Get that caffeine flowing. Well, so how was last week? What did we see last week that we need to know about?
Well, go ahead, Gene.
Go ahead. Maybe
well,
you remember it better than I do.
Well, first, let me tell you, you're right. It's near the end of the session. We're supposed to get out first week of May. But right now, everyone's tired. They're upset because their bills maybe didn't pass, or they're not getting as much money on a project as they'd expected, or not getting anything on the project. So right now, it's. I noticed it last week. You know, sometimes they give us these little squeeze balls for our attention, I guess. But anyway, I noticed last week I saw them throwing them across the chamber when we were on recess, and I thought, yep. It's getting crazy again. So.
Not all of that is friendly fire.
No, no. We had a lady last year that stood up and hit a guy right in the back as hard as she could throw it, about 10 feet away. So no, no, it's not all fun by any means. And like I say, people are tired. They want to make sure that their projects, are included. They want to take care of their district and take care of their constituents, and I understand that.
Representative Newman, are you guys seeing about the same thing?
Yeah, we have issues that the speaker and upper team they have issues that they're trying to get done, and they seem to be arguing a little bit more with the other side, and so that drizzles down to us, and we're just plodding along right now.
Sure. This is the part we say you're in the trenches, basically.
That's exactly right.
Good deal. Well, and so do I understand correctly the conferees have been named?
Conferees, as far as Senate conferees for the conference report, should have been named this weekend. We had named a few. I say we, the Lieutenant Governor. He was waiting for the chairman to turn in the names. There's 3 people on the House and Senate side, both that go to that are on the conference committee. And he was waiting till Friday for everyone to turn in their list. Any that he told them Friday, any that aren't turned in, I'm naming the conferees. So today we should have all the conference committees hopefully assigned. As far as the Senate, and I think probably the House.
House probably be the same thing.
That's got to be a relief, or just a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and hopefully we won't wait till conference weekend this weekend. Because I mean we're very much on schedule, if not ahead, believe it or not, and hopefully some of these chairmen will get together this week and get with the conferees and work out all that. Hopefully wouldn't have to be here this next weekend.
Sure. So let's start off by talking about what has kind of turned out to be the gorilla of this session, which is PERS. And it was dead, but it's not dead. And you guys, we saw signs of life this week. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we took the House bill and changed it around. Of course, we know it's going to conference. And what we did is we named 2. We left, first off, to make a lot of people happy, we left the elected board just as it is. No change. Didn't add anyone to the board. All we did, but we did 2 things in the bill that I can remember. 2 things. One, we named that 2 actuaries would be on the board, I guess, as non-voting members. They're really not even on the board. They're more consultants, I guess you could say, as far as 2 actuaries. So we got to find 2 actuaries if this bill passes. And I have no idea what the pay is. I can't remember. But it wasn't that much. And let's see, what was the other thing we did?
Took the 2% off.
They were actually, the board had the authority, as you know, to assess entities, whether it be school systems, cities, counties, whatever. and
State.
they had passed 2%, and we said from now on you can't do that. From now on you can recommend that, but the legislature has to approve it. So that's one thing that we did. I think that's very important. It was going to cost the schools and the city and the county a lot of money. So that by saying the legislature has to approve it, and those actuaries will tell us why. So that will really help. What was the other thing we did? Let's see. The actuaries left the board the same.
I think that's it.
I was thinking we did one other thing, but anyway, it's a pretty good bill. Make a lot of people happy. As far as public entities, it'll make them a lot happier than they are. That'll really be. I think it's one of the best things we've done, honestly. Like I say, we don't need to be paying people to lose money. We need to be making money for our retirees and make sure that they're protected. And the other thing I was going to say is, as I've said before here, the board actually has nothing to do with benefits for retirees. I want to make that perfectly clear again. The legislature is the one that gave these benefits to retirees, and the legislature will continue to do that. So we're not going to mess with anyone's 13th check or the COLA in any way, except that it may end up before it's all over and out of conference that new employees will be under a different tier and have different benefits than existing defined benefit plan that we have now for the retirees. But anybody that's a state employee now or retiree, you're not going to see any change.
Great. Now, just to make sure, because we have some really smart people that watch this, but not everybody may know what an actuary is. Do you want to define that, just so that we keep down the uproar that we've been trying to keep down?
Come on, explain that one.
Well, let's see.
You remember that guy that was really good in math at school?
Yeah.
That's He's an actuary now.
Well, I thought of an old story about a guy that was at the Jackson Airport one time, and he was getting on a plane, and one of the local TV stations was there. They said, that plane crashed yesterday in Dallas. And of course, you have a different plane today, but it's the same flight doing the same thing. And the guy was an actuary. He said, yeah, and I figured in the odds of the plane doing that 2 times, it was like 400 million to 1, so I feel very safe on the plane. That's an actuary.
Good. We need those. Yeah. I need one of those. Okay, well, another thing that I think gets a lot of discussion around the state each year, but it's teacher salaries. And you guys took a lot of action as far as just different things you're doing to assist teachers in their salaries, including a $50 million bump for teacher pay raises that would bring, and is it connected to the one that starts teachers at $42,500 now?
I think that may be actually another bill, but these are House bills that they sent over, and I can't remember if it was a House recommendation or we changed it, but either way, it's for starting teachers now would be $42,500, which is a pretty good starting pay, and hopefully to encourage more good students to become teachers. I think that also included in that amount, I think we also gave assistant teachers a raise. I think all the teachers overall, it was like $1,000 a year raise, and we just gave the largest raise in history last year. Matter of fact, the last 4 or 5 years we've given large bumps to teachers. At one time they said we just want to be at the southeastern average, which is a moving target because every time we give a raise the average goes up. So we gave this huge raise to get us actually above the southeastern average this past year. So we're still, I'm sure with this, we'll probably still be above the southeastern average, which is all the surrounding states and all. So I think we're doing a pretty good job for our teachers, and we appreciate our teachers. We have some really good teachers.
Great. Representative Newman, I know that when I was a teacher back in the early 2000s, I was making $20,000 a year to teach junior high school. Granted, I was a private school teacher, but public schools weren't that far ahead of us at the time. That was in the early 2000s, 2005-ish.
So going from 20 to 42.5?
Oh yeah, that's great. Talk about kind of some of the discussion when you guys brought it up in the House.
Well, they took a bill that we had sent over there. It didn't have that raise in it, and they changed it. Which
nice.
So I'm not sure what the bill originally did, whether they completely changed it from what it was to this or whatever. But I mean, that's part of the legislative process. You look for places when you're trying to do something, and you look for vehicles to put it in.
Sure.
Kind of like grabbing that first Uber that comes along.
Good job, y'all. I know, as I'm not a teacher anymore, but I certainly remember what it was like. Okay, well.
You know, again, K through 12 is like 50% of the total revenue received.
Wow.
Well, I think it's 46% actually. I think isn't that correct for K through 12? I know that over 50%, including colleges and community colleges and K through 12, it's over. So if you wonder where all your money's going, it's going to education, majority of it. I think 85% of our total budget's like 3 or 4 state agencies out of 20-something.
Wow.
So it doesn't leave a lot for the others. Matter of fact, I think probably if you look, you'll see that education, Medicaid, corrections, mental health, I'm trying to think of what, I mean, that's the big ones.
Yeah,
I would think.
And
after that, then what little we have left, which is a lot of money, but it takes a lot of money to run those agencies as well.
Sure. Well, and what price do you put on our future, you know, when
Yeah.
it comes to education? I think it's worth it. Okay, so one thing that I had noticed in some of what y'all did, and of course as a crime reporter, it piqued my interest. You guys set up the Purple Alert. It differentiates between a Silver Alert and other people with cognitive differences. Can you talk about kind of what went into that?
It started in the House. I'm not sure where the bill came from, but it's yeah, some organization had pushed the bill out. The issue is that Silver Alerts don't clearly define somebody who may be having a problem that triggers a police officer to think that he's in danger when he's not. You know, when you have a child, in other words, a child with Asperger's or something similar to that maybe their communication skills is not where they would normally be for someone that age, 18, 19-year-old, and you know, they've gotten lost, they're confused, and a lot of those people just kind of shut down whenever that happens. And when a police officer reacts to them and they don't, you know, they just know that if it was a Silver Alert or if it's just listed as a runaway, then they don't know what they're dealing with, whereas this is designed to help the law enforcement understand that this person has a issue that needs to be dealt with differently from just the average runaway.
Well, and that's important because we see almost yearly a situation somewhere in the country where an officer has shot someone who's developmentally disabled because they appear to pose a threat when
That's
really
correct.
there could have been a de-escalation process that would maybe not have applied to a violent criminal.
That's correct, and that's what this bill is designed to do. And that's, you know, I know some people saying, well, we don't need another alert. Well, we do because of that. You know, you have a Silver Alert. That's a senior person that has gotten confused and gotten lost, and you know, so you're dealing with that gives law enforcement knowledge of what they're dealing with. It's the same thing with a Purple Alert. When they see what it is, they know to treat the person differently.
Good deal. All right, well, also tell us what we need to know about the budget this year before I get off into some of the fun stuff. Obviously that's a big deal.
Well, we don't have as much money as we did have, but we still got a lot of money.
Feels like my life.
Well, we had a lot of federal ARPA money that, thank goodness we've given out. We've got a little left that we need to still give away, but it's spoken for, believe me. Not hard to give away money.
The biggest thing that I'd like to say about the budget, that's what we're fixing to do. We're fixing to come down to crunch time, and all the money's going to get allocated to the different agencies, and they're going to have final numbers where they can say this, you know, you get this budget for this, you get that budget for that. what I'd like the people in Pearl to know and to keep in mind. So everybody knew that I had a bill to put a red light in at East Rankin and El Dorado. And I'm having people call me and say, well, that bill died. Yeah, all of those bills like that died. The bill for the street lights out here on Highway 80, all those bills have died, but that doesn't mean that they're not dead, or they're certainly not dead. So what happens is, the way the budget process works is, we put those bills in so that, number one is people in general know that they're there, that desire is there. But number two is so that the chairman of the appropriations and Ways and Means knows that is a need that we have. It puts it on their radar, it puts it on their list, so to say, and then they're about to come up with the list that they're going to spend money on and how they allocate it, and based on those wants and those desires that we put into those bills, that's how they're going to fund those. And guys like this guy sitting next to me who has real power to control that, and Senator Harkins, both those guys being from Rankin County helps Rankin County an awful lot.
Absolutely, and of course
That's
what we're interested in on this show.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of that, some of the money that we have given, by the way, you can see in action this week when they open up. They're having the ribbon cutting this week for the bridge on, what is it, South Pearson, I guess, there. Bridge over the railroad.
The intermodal bridge.
Yeah.
And it's taken a while to get that to fruition.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had to work with the railroad and around their terms, so it was a little difficult. But yeah, the mayor and the alderman did a good job on that, and so has the contractor, it appears. So, but it's all striped and painted and ready to go, I understand. And
ribbon cutting and turn them loose.
Yeah.
And hopefully they don't start having wrecks on it like they did.
Isn't that Wednesday of this week?
I think so.
I'm not sure.
It's coming up.
It's coming up.
I hope it's not
The
this
22nd,
morning.
I believe,
Missing.
yeah.
If it's this morning, we're going to miss it.
Right. Well, and how does it feel to kind of have that off your plates? I mean, I realize that y'all had a part in it. It's not all your responsibility, but just to know it's getting done.
That part of it's off our plate, but now we've got to finish the road to go from that bridge where it turns out and goes to 49.
Yeah.
That's going to be a 4-lane road that goes on out that extends it, and that's our next project. And we got to work through the city of Richland and MDOT. MDOT wants to go one way. City of Richland wants it to go another way. They've got to figure that out, and then we've got to get the funding worked out.
How nice it will be to get off of 49 at Richland and go to Lakeland Drive.
Oh yeah.
And that's coming. So.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that myself.
More exciting would be to go from Lakeland Drive to Richland.
That's true.
Fair enough.
Treetops by Applebee's. People know where that is on Lakeland, to get off it there. And gosh, you can be in Pearl just a snap of a finger. So we're excited about that.
That'll definitely help my morning commute. This excites me. I'm one of those people that cries at the national anthem, that kind of thing. So I saw Representative Newman that you guys had Elsie Gladney as one of your guests this week, and what an honor. He's 100 years old now?
Well, he's actually 99. He's turning 100 this month, or I don't know whether it was April or May, but he's turning 100 real quick. He's pretty amazing. He's a World War II veteran that went in like in 42 and served the whole time. Served in France, at Europe. He went to Europe. So he was actually, if I understood it right, he's in the Army Air Corps. Wasn't a pilot, but he did support and stuff for them. And was the first assignment was up in Idaho with the WASP when they was working. We were sending planes over to Europe. So that was his first assignment. And he said he left Idaho and came back to Mississippi, and the coldest he's ever been in his life was in Camp McLean. up in Grenada area. So he said it was a lot colder there than when he was in Idaho. So.
We take it for granted how cold it gets.
And I'm gonna take his word for that.
Yeah. We like it down here in the middle part of the state.
But anyway, he had. I mean, he's a really sharp gentleman. He had all his. He stood and talked to us for at least 15 minutes to the whole house, and he really we have to really appreciate that generation because we don't have those kind of people anymore.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's like that's almost a whole world away from where we are now, and there are so many important lessons to learn from those guys.
Yep, and they're going away quick, and we won't have those anymore. And hopefully somewhere we have a lot of film with those guys talking.
Absolutely. All right, so last thing we want to touch on is obviously, you know, we like to monitor how the freshmen are doing, and you guys said we got a good crop this year. Tell us what that looks like from where y'all sit.
We have a lot more in the house, so
obviously.
I think we have a total of 27. We have very good people that's coming into the house. They're most of them are very smart. Most of them seem very capable. They're very dedicated. You know, and I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats. They're really good people that seem to have come in, and they it's the right way to say this. They're not completely confused, but they're totally confused. they you know, I'm probably the only person that I know of that got elected that had a clue about what actually happens up there because I spent so much time up there working behind the scenes, nowhere trying to get bills passed. So I knew how the system worked. I knew the rules. I knew what you had to do. These guys that came in this time, there's really smart ones. I mean, we got a couple of lawyers that are really smart. That's really going to be good through the years, and they still it's still a hard learning curve to get up there and get to an understanding of where you're at. By the time you're in the fourth year, when you're finishing your freshman term, you have at least an understanding of where all the bathrooms are.
Sure. Well, and I think that we, as the observers, the civilians out here that are not politicians, sometimes I think we tend to look at your jobs and say, "What? It's just making decisions. Just make the decision." But there's so much more that goes into it, and that's what you're talking about.
Right. There are rules that govern everything that we do, and you know, and you go to a baseball game and you watch the baseball game, and there's rules that govern that game. It's the same kind of rules up there, except there's a lot more of them, and they're a lot harder to learn. And up there, you know, in a baseball game you're dealing with egos. Up there you're dealing with a different kind of ego, and you have to tread carefully because, you know, you may say, well, I told people back home that I was going to vote this way on this issue, and then everybody else is there voting a different way from what you're voting, and it puts a lot of pressure on you to change what you're doing. And you have to decide, you know, well, am I going to stay with what I said? And that's when you learn, be very careful about what you tell people back home. Because if you tell somebody you're going to vote a certain way, you better vote that way. If that's what will get you in trouble with the folks back home. Getting in trouble with the people at the Capitol is one thing. Getting in trouble with the people back home is a different.
That's what puts you out of a job.
Well, you know, and that's one of the things that I tell people, you know, that's like the PERS thing. I mean, I voted to change it, and I voted to change it because I believe it was the right thing to do. I still believe it was the right thing to do. I haven't changed my opinion of that. A lot of people at home didn't like that and didn't think that, but I didn't run for this office to get reelected. I run for this office to do the job that they elected me to do, and I'm going to do it the very best that I can do. That's all I can do. You know, there's going to be times I'm going to do things that people don't like, but I'm going to do, number one is what I think God wants me to do. Number two is what I think is right for everybody, not just this little group or that little group, but for the whole state. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I know that's what he does because I've watched him for too many years.
You have to do what you think is right, and so many times, someone will say, "You voted against this, that we really wanted." Yeah, well, did you know that in the bill also were these other things where you could never get anything else type thing, So, no, I didn't know that. So you have to be on your toes at times and make sure that you're doing the right thing for the future for all the people. It's tough. Now, let me talk about our freshmen. By the way, he's right. They do have good freshmen, especially for, I don't know those except the Rankin County ones, and you really did well there, and we did as well. We added a new senator for Rankin County that has kind of like a J in Rankin County. It starts at Pelahatchie and goes down around Puckett and goes over to Florence, and it goes back up Richland. So it's kind of like a J. And Brian Rhodes is our new senator there, and Brian is gung-ho. He reminds me so much of me. Well, first I thought he reminds me of Josh Harkins, because Josh was exactly the same way. Let me do. Just calm down. And Brian is now beginning to realize that he can't, like you say, do everything that he thought he could do. And I think everyone will understand. You've got people up there in the legislature that have been waiting maybe 12 years or 16 years or even 20 years to get a project. Finally, it's their turn, because some of these other guys that left that were ahead of them and that type of stuff. So I think he's realized that he's not going to get everything that he wants to get, nor am I, as far as that goes. But I hope the people in his district are very patient with him, because he's working really, really hard trying to do the things that help Rankin County. The other senators that we have are really good. I mean, the new ones, where they had 20-something new, we only had 7. Where they have 120, there's a reason. They have 122 members, we only have 52 in the Senate. And so we only have 7, I think 5 Republicans, 2 Democrats that are new. And I've even been impressed with the Democrats. As you said, they're willing to work with us, and they're good people, and I think they realize they're outnumbered as well. But everyone's working together really well, and Brian's very well liked, and he'll do a really, really good job for us. And I'm honored to have him. Now, I caught the devil over that district, I want to tell you, because I did the redistricting, and as all these people moved out of the Delta, and really the river counties, except maybe Vicksburg, I'm not sure about Warren County, but all the others lost population, and and it just changed. Well, we grew. And so we needed, Senator Harkins and I would have way more than permitted by federal law to have in our districts. And so we had to add another district. So that Natchez district came to Rankin County. I'm sorry, that's where the people are. And so we had to do that, and we needed to do that. And luckily we got us a good senator that's going to do a good job. So, but I love watching them too. It's fun. But like I say, I laughed at Harkins, and I thought I did the same thing. Gary Harkins, who was a dear friend of mine before he passed away a few years ago, Josh's dad, and I had been friends for years. And Gary was at the Capitol, says first year, he says, "How's Josh doing?" And I said, "Josh reminds me so much of my dog." He looked at me, he said, "What?" And I said, "He reminds me of a little dog that my wife had that was a Yorkie. And a friend of mine came to visit us, and I said, "Oh, I see you've met our dog." And he said, "Yeah, he jumped up in my lap and kissed me 3 times before I even knew it was a dog." And it was just so feisty. and so that's kind of the way everyone is when they first get there.
Sure.
Because they want to make a difference. They want to do what they said they were going to do, and they will. It just may not can get it as soon as everybody expects. But I do expect that if any freshman on the Senate side is going to get some projects, I think it's probably going to be Brian Rhodes.
Sure, good. Well, and I imagine there's personality type that a lot of these freshmen are, and it's, I'm going to go out and save the world. I'm going to make
Oh,
a
yeah.
difference, you know, and then you learn there's a process too.
It
So,
is a process. It's a very, as you said, very complicated and difficult process to learn. You like as Gene said, you vote against something. Well, that may hurt other parts of the state. Then you go to a committee meeting and you're ready to pass your bill, and they say he voted against my bill. Boom, dead. So yeah, you have to learn the process and when to fold them, when to walk away, right? When to hold them, fold them, walk away.
That's exactly
And,
right.
and yeah, it's you learn. It just takes a little time, and you also learn that there's two sides to every story. Well, there's two sides to every story at the Capitol in the sense that we have the House and the Senate. Just because you pass in the Senate doesn't mean it's going to become law, as we've seen at many times. So yeah, it's a very complex, complicated process that you have to learn, in addition to learning the rules, which you had the advantage of knowing a lot of the rules, but most freshmen do not. And I'm chairman of rules, and I'm still learning after all these years. And of course, we make new rules and new procedures all the time according to the situation.
it's kind of a moving target then.
Yeah, you let so-and-so do this, why will you not let us do that? Yeah, well, because this was different circumstances. Yeah. So sometimes you don't, as chairman of rules, you don't always make friends with your senators that elected you to be the rules chairman or the pro tem. So yeah, it's a complicated process, but it's really fun. I told someone the other day, hey, if we didn't have to go to Jackson and be in session, this would be a great job.
Just the fun parts.
Yeah, but most of the time it is fun and it's very rewarding. It makes, I can't tell you how happy it makes me and Gene and others to go across this bridge finally. Yeah, and we're working on a lot of projects for Rankin County right now that will really, really improve Rankin County. I'm excited. I'm excited about the DPS building. I'm still excited about that. As you said before, Gene, Tom Weathersby and I worked on that for, 16 years,
Yeah, 16
before
years.
we actually started construction. And it just takes time to get some of the things that you need. And that was a need, not for Rankin County as much, even though it's going to help Rankin County, it's going to help Pearl, it's going to help Brandon and everywhere else. And especially going to help the Highway Patrol. And I'm excited about that. And that building will soon be opening as well. Beautiful, beautiful building right across the crime lab off of Alan Stewart Drive, who is a Pearl boy, by the way.
Sure. Yeah, I'm excited to see that too. I know how long it's taken, and I worked in the DPS building for a little while, and I know that it was fun, but it'll be fun to see something new.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, we're moving and shaking. Things are happening. But these everyday laws that we pass are the ones that affect the everyday people. And we have to be very careful with those because it seems like going back to two sides again, every bill that looks like the perfect bill ends up hurting someone. So you have to kind of weigh that. But it's a fun job, and we're both honored to be in a position to try to make a difference and try to help people. That's why we're there. I've always said if I ever get so I don't want to help people, or if I'm in a position where I can't help people, then it's time for me to leave, because that's what I'm there for, and no other reason.
One of my favorite sayings is integrity is greater than approval, and I
Absolutely.
feel like that's where you guys seem to have told me today that you fall, and I appreciate that about you both.
Let me say one thing about serving up there that a lot of people have a misconception of. They watch TV and watch what's happening in Congress and the U.S. Senate. Serving up there in the Senate or the House is not the same. We're not, some bills that come up and we argue about them on the floor and we have long discussions about them. And yes, both sides, we have super majorities, and both sides we can pass whatever we want to, but we still have to, you still are you treat other people, you treat the other side correctly and let them have their say, even though you have the votes to do what you're trying to do anyway. You have to respect them. You have to give them the right to speak and give them the right to express their opinions. Who knows, sometimes it does make a difference and change something. But the reality of it is we don't fight. I mean, it's like a big old family up there on both sides, even the House of Lords and the lower house.
Yeah.
You know, but we're if you walk down the hall, if you see us walking down the hall together, well, you're not mad at each other. We have to work together, and we do deliberately try not to say things that hurt each other's feelings, and try not to make each other mad unnecessarily. You know, you have to say what you believe in. You have to stand up for it, but that doesn't mean you have to hurt each other's feelings. And I think the relationships that we have, Republican, Democrats, House, Senate, it's about we try to treat each other with respect, and that's the most important thing that we do up there. So don't think that what happens in our capital in the state of Mississippi is anything like what happens in Washington D.C., because it's not. Every once in a while you may see somebody have some kind of a real disagreement. They get personal about something, and that causes a problem. But we don't have the kind of problems they have in D.C.
No.
Sure. So you hear that, social media, the men and women in the arena are not tearing each other up, which means you don't have to either.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So before we go, is there anything else you guys want us to know about that I wouldn't know to ask you?
If it is, we can't remember.
It's Monday.
Well, it's been a long, hard session. One of the most difficult, and one of the reasons is because it's the first year of a new term, and everyone wants to live up to what they said they were going to do during the election. So, and and most of the things, there is one thing, when you were talking about Republican, Democrat, not everything is partisan. There are bills that Democrats actually introduce sometimes that are good bills. Most of the time we don't agree on a lot of the major issues, but they do. They've offered good amendments. They've offered some good things. So it's not that we always disagree all the time. I mean, we have a lot of 52-0 votes, and y'all probably have a lot of 122-0 votes. So everything's not Republican fighting Democrats all the time. I mean, we do have a different philosophy. They're obviously a lot more liberal than we are, and so we're a lot more conservative. So, but there are some subjects, and all these good things we do, they're not our ideas. They're our constituents' ideas most of the time. Well, we passed one last week. As a matter of fact, Walter Michelle passed a bill. I called Walter during the summer. I said, Walter, these schools are changing their schedules, and they're meeting at different times now. They're not in the same old deal. We have the tax-free weekend, which Walter had a bill, and I think somebody in the House had one. We ended up taking the House bill a few years ago. And I said, now with them changing when they're actually in school, we need, according to my daughter, who's an educator, we need to move that up a few weeks. And he said, great idea. So so Tara, my daughter, came up with that idea. I didn't. And then I passed it on to Walter, and I thought I should, because it was originally his bill to do the thing. I mean, it wasn't my deal. It's just my daughter's idea that I passed to the chairman. And anyway, and he passed that this past week, and I'm sure the House will approve it, because it'll help, and it'll also, like Alabama's example, they have the tax-free weekend as well, and it's the same weekend as ours. Now it won't be. Now we're first. So a lot of even though some of the Alabama schools have also changed their schedule. Now some of these parents will come over that live close to the state line, and they'll shop in Mississippi, and so it brings them more money. And then not only that, the kids will have their supplies and their clothes and all, hopefully, sort of say made in Mississippi, but at least sold in Mississippi. So maybe someday made in Mississippi. Again, yeah.
Good deal. Well, I just appreciate you guys so much. I love doing this every Monday, and thank y'all for being here and letting us see what it looks like on the inside. Well,
it's a little different from sitting up in that gallery looking down than it is actually being in the arena. It's different pressures, different rewards. There's a lot of rewards to this job as far as accomplishing something. It's a rewarding. I've said it before, probably on this show. It's like driving 99 yards in football, get to the 1 yard line and can't score. So you come back next year and you start all over. You might do that 2 or 3 years, and it usually takes for a good bill to pass 3 years. So because people want to understand it before they vote for it, if it's complex at all. And so when you finally do score that touchdown, we want to jump up and down and do a dance just like they do on TV in a ball game. So.
Yeah, and you know, the one thing that we both want is what's best for Mississippi.
That's right.
We just that's all we're there for is to try to do what's best for our district, what's best for the state of Mississippi.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's what I was going to say when you were talking about Republicans and Democrats, is in the end we're all Mississippians.
That's right.
Good deal. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate y'all's time, and I know our viewers do too. Guys, thank y'all for joining us, and we hope that you'll be back next week. I'm Therese Apel, the Public Information Director here at Pearl, and this is Under the Dome.